Humans survive in groups or they don't survive at all. Humans do not survive alone in nature. They survive because we are organized in social ways and we defend ourselves as a group. We are the product of individuals that acted well during a crisis. And the people that didn't act very well tended to not survive. That's how you get this incredibly good, noble, generous, heroic behavior in the very worst circumstances. And then when things are pretty good, when there's enough food, when there's no enemy attacking the town, when everything's cool, basically the great American suburb. Lawns are mowed, the cops take care of security, no one's worried about anything. That's actually when you get antisocial behavior.
We have trained for this moment. Standing behind me is not just your ordinary football players, but they're elite football players. We call fierce competitors.
While I was playing, whether I was at Penn State and some of the alumni would come back after a practice, coach would gather us around. And the number one thing that you heard as a player was every guy almost came back to tears about, man, this is what you miss. You miss the guys, you miss the smell, you miss the hard work that everybody puts, like you smell the hard work. You heard that every time. It was almost every time, and every guy said the same exact thing about what they miss. They miss that camaraderie, and that's the exact line that I started drawing when I started reading your words. It's like, oh my God, like somebody's actually explaining in terms that I've heard before, but is extending the conversation.
A breathless moment is one of those times when you just lose your breath because it's a moment that you can challenge for the rest of your life. Today is one of those days.
We all respond positively to community. The harder, the more difficult the circumstances, the greater the threat, the tighter the bonds.
Today is a moment that you're all going to remember.
The highest purpose that there is defending one's community and one's family from the threat. What you guys had as football players, you had not only the experience of community, but on top of that, you had an incredible performance of a male coalition reenacting something that feels something like war. You are being called to serve a higher purpose. So how do you bring someone back from the sort of glory and the honor of that to being just another person? I'd spent time with American soldiers in Afghanistan. There was a lot of combat. There was no amenities of any sort. We were on a hilltop, no internet. There was no electricity for a while. They were sleeping rough in the dirt. We were, and getting engaged constantly by the enemy.
Hey, Roger, detect that keep going.
And I was amazed at the end of it, after they brought them back to Italy where they're based, a lot of them said, we don't want to go back to America, we want to go back to Restrepo, with the little outpost. They missed the communal aspect of life in combat in a platoon. A platoon in combat is recreating our evolutionary past. I mean, anthropologists will tell you that humans have lived in groups of 30, 40, 50 people for hundreds of thousands of years. That's what we're wired for. That's what makes emotional and psychological sense. So when you take people in modern society and you put them in a group of that size in a difficult circumstance, it feels right, it feels natural, and people don't want to give it up. PTSD suddenly wasn't a malfunction, it was actually a healthy reaction to returning to a fractured and soulless society where there's no meaningful connections, there's no meaningful community. All of a sudden I saw PTSD as the mind functioning in some ways healthily. Mm-hmm. What you guys had as football players, it's not war, right? I'm sure you have many friends in the other teams and whatever. It's a sport of gentlemen.
But your body doesn't know the difference.
Your body doesn't know the difference, exactly. Your body is going to war. And so the big thing you always hear is like, how do we help veterans transition back to civilian life? It's tough, but one way is to stop thinking of them as heroes. Stop thinking of them as special. And so what athletes, I think what they need to do, and it must be very, very hard, is to say, okay, I'm no longer a superhero. If you really want to transition people back from a frankly heroic role to everyday life, which is a healthy transition, what you have to do is say, those things that you did happen over there, now you're just another person with us. But that requires a huge ego step by the person, right? You got to give up. I mean, what made you feel special and different, you got to give that up.
Roger.